Everybody. I want to call the meeting of the regular council meeting to order for Monday, April 6th, 6 p.m. here in the council room. Present, we have President Carter Finnegan online, council members Andrew Touchette, John Manette, Sharon Perry are present, as well as myself, Rick Ufford Chase, Mayor of Newport, Clerk Treasurer Jim Johnson. We've got a full complement of city staff here tonight. So we have Mike Brown, the Rec Director, Tom Bernier, Director of Public Works, Kevin Charbonneau, the Chief of the Fire Department. No, Kevin Charbonneau. Kevin Lacoste. Sorry, that's an old tape playing in my head.
I'm honored.
And Chief of Police Travis Bingham is here as well. And I think that's all of the staff we have on present.
Did you get Carrie?
Oh, I did it again, Carrie. You sit back there and hide in the corner harder on me. Carrie Schultz, the Financial and Office Administrator, and John Klesch, our attorney from SPNF, is online. So we've got a full complement and a very full agenda tonight. I will try to move us as expeditiously as possible. So to that end, Carter, I'm going to move relatively quickly, but not turn to each time, okay? So if you have something to say, jump in and interrupt us. Are there any, council members, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as it's proposed?
No.
Okay. Carter, you're okay?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so hearing none, we'll move on to item 3, which is the consent agenda. We have approval of the minutes from March 16th. AP warrants, there's a bundle of them here from March 20th, March 23rd, March 24th, March 27th, again on March 27th, and April 3rd. We have PR warrants for the 17th of March, and we have one permit request from Echodale Farm, LLC. Are there any questions or concerns or comments regarding the consent agenda, the items on the consent agenda? Sharon?
It was really hard to read the form for the liquor license, but what is Echodale Farms? What was that one all about? What are they doing?
That is a special tasting thing they have every once in a while.
Tasting thing?
The vendor comes up, brings sample wines for them to sell wine.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other questions? Questions or concerns from members of the community? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So,
A second?
a second.
A second from Andrew. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay. We're going to move on to the public comment. And just stick with me for a moment, y'all. I have too many pieces of paper tonight. I'm trying to juggle here. Oh, what did I do with that one? I'm going to ask you all to bear with me for just a second. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. Check with the fire department. Under penalty of law. What time did you Sunday? Like 8. So we got checked out. Fire.
Thank you for your patience, everyone.
In the morning. The chainsaw.
So I want to open our public comment time tonight with a brief statement myself. And then I'll remind members of the community that this is a time on the agenda for items that are not on the agenda elsewhere. So as you make your comments tonight, please confine them to items that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. At our last meeting, council meeting, Pam Lads made a heartfelt statement about her hurt and anger regarding my decision to move the NEK-TV camera to the back corner of the council room. I want to address that decision, which I made in consultation with council members. I said repeatedly last year on many different occasions that I've been extremely grateful for Pam's dedicated service to the city of Newport. In the time that I've been here, I don't believe there's been a single city council meeting that Pam has missed, nor has she missed a single meeting of the 3 major task forces that have operated over the past year. Having said that, it's also true that I've been asked repeatedly by council members and by volunteers who have agreed to serve on our task forces to create a way of filming the proceedings of these meetings that is less disruptive to their deliberations. I've been thinking for some time about how best to respond to that challenge. Before asking our Public Works Department to build the platform in the back of the room for a camera, I consulted with the director of NEK-TV, and we agreed on what we thought could be a solution that would minimize the presence of the camera and improve the experience of those who view the recordings of the meetings. I did try to notify Pam about 4 hours in advance of the meeting. Given the highly polarized nature of our current political climate, I was saddened but not surprised when Pam took it as retribution and chose to resign. I would have welcomed her feedback, which she chose not to offer, on how to improve the situation, though I was not interested in reversing the decision to place the camera elsewhere in the room. Residents may have noticed other changes that took place at the same time. We've purchased a higher quality sound system, and we've added microphones to the council table. We've placed the podium in a place where everyone in the room, including the camera, can see the speaker's profile instead of looking at their back. My intention is that no one will address the council, which happens through me as our mayor, without going to the podium and the microphone, and I'll ask you all to honor that this evening. We will also be returning to Mayor Sullivan's practice of limiting comments from community residents to 2 to 3 minutes per topic, unless council members themselves invite further discussion. After a year of trying to allow for almost unlimited participation from community residents, it's clear to me that this too can become a distraction from the important work that council members need to do. Council meetings are a time for the council to work together. Community residents will be given the opportunity to offer their thoughts and to ask questions. It's my job as mayor to make sure that they have the opportunity to do so without fear of being attacked by others and without themselves attacking city leaders or others from the community. Over the next few weeks, the council will be reviewing the rules for how similar practices will be followed by the commissions and task forces appointed by City Council. Nothing is set in stone. We will continue to learn how best to work together by actually working together. And the council will have the opportunity to make suggestions to me about ways we can modify our practices as needed to find the balance we're looking for. So, we have time on the agenda for folks who would like to make public comment, and actually, Andrew, I'm hoping that that's your phone and you could pull it out to keep track of time tonight.
Yes.
We'll give 2 minutes and then give a warning and a further minute, and then we'll ask folks to wrap up their comments at no more than 3 minutes. So who do we have to speak first, John?
Lori, excuse me, Lori is first.
Lori Grimm, resident of Newport. This is more or less a comment and maybe a suggestion. This morning I had an opportunity to go to the legislative breakfast. I've been trying to attend most of those as I can, which happen in the spring, at least once a month. This month there will be 2. There's another one in 2 weeks. I find them very interesting and very informative to hear our legislators speak on issues that are happening in the legislature, and a lot of things are coming up with Act 181, some other things that are happening, and it was mentioned to me by another member of the community who was not able to come tonight to request that the council consider attending those meetings. I know that periodically people do come. I know that when we've had a city manager, the city manager's been there. Hopefully that will continue when we get a city manager by next year. And it's just a suggestion. There were a lot of representatives and senators there today. A lot of good conversation after the meeting. So I was asked to present that, and I think it would be something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one.
Jay Walsh.
Good evening, all.
Just Jay, make sure you're speaking pretty close to them. You have to project.
Yeah,
Mike
sure.
won't fully pick you up.
I'm not an actor, so I can't relate. You'll see that I'm speaking to specifically the warning and the agenda items, not the agenda items themselves. So I respectfully request that my filed ethics complaint regarding bonding complaint and be entered into the official record of this meeting and appended to the minutes. That's both the ethics complaint and the bonding complaint. I also note for the record that while 12, complaint regarding bonding item appears on the agenda, the complaint itself is not included in public materials. Because this complaint is the substance of the agenda item, its absent limits meaningful public understanding and participation. To agenda item 13, complaint regarding conflicts of interest by council members, I respectfully request that the 3 council members named in the conflict of interest complaint recuse themselves from all discussions, deliberations, and actions on this agenda item. Should you fail to recuse yourselves in the complaint in which you are named, you will willingly be both violating Vermont's open public meeting law as well as the Vermont Code of Ethics. In addition, I call upon the 2 unaffected members in that complaint to fulfill their obligation to recognize the clear conflict of interest of the conflicted council members taking action on a complaint in which the members are named. I request that you act and ask the members to recuse themselves from the agenda item 13. If recusal does not occur, I ask that your participation over my objection be noted in the record and that consideration of this item be postponed until it can be reviewed by a disinterested body. Advice of the city attorney in conflict of interest. The city attorney is just that, the attorney for the city. Under Vermont's Municipal Code of Ethics, each official must independently evaluate conflicts of interest when necessary. This is a personal duty, not something delegated to council. When the council member's personal interests may conflict with the city's interest, the city attorney cannot advise the individual as a personal client. Lastly, for the record, the city appears to be out of compliance with Vermont Code of Ethics law, specifically 24 VSA 60, which requires municipalities to publicly post their code of ethics, including guidance on conflicts of interest, recusal procedures, and a clear process for filing and addressing ethics complaints. This requirement is missing from the site. This public posting was required by law as of December 2024. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. John?
Ann Chirello.
This is just a simple request for clarification. Recently, you moved public comment from the end, practically the end, to right after the consent agenda. And it says there, public comment on items not included on the agenda. And over the years, there have been times when we have not been allowed to comment on stuff that's on the agenda because it wasn't going to be subject to a vote, or because it was purely because someone had come in to make a presentation to the council. And so our only opportunity to comment on that was during public comment. So if this is going to be the practice, I'm only asking that should a person decide that they want to comment, for instance, tonight on anything from 5 through 13, 14, I guess is where it ends, that we be allowed to make, we are reserving the right to make a comment later, since we, on those things specifically, since we haven't been allowed to make the comment on them now. And I'd ask you to make that a policy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Please.
Kate was next, Kate Lance.
two comments. One is that items that should have been in the package were not in the package, despite the fact that those two items are on the agenda. That's very strange. I understand after an email from the mayor that that is because the legal counsel advised it not to be so. However, as they are a public record, that makes 0 sense. And my second comment is to address what you started this meeting with, which is, if you genuinely believe that, you would have involved me in the process. That would have been respect. What you did was total disrespect. I have no issue with being moved to the back. I have no issue with being moved anywhere if you involve me in that process. But you didn't. You built a block that was too small for the camera. It was unsafe. You didn't care. And on several occasions, I have suggested to you other means of being able to record these meetings, which you are mandated to do. Magically, that's now happened, but I had to quit for that to happen. But the way you approach this is wrong, just wrong.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, Beth Burns from Brownington.
Is that the list?
Beth is not in the room.
Okay, Mike Kuchar?
Oh, wow, not fast, huh?
I don't think Beth is online. Nope.
No.
Mike?
I first of all apologize. We were in another meeting until just a few minutes ago, and you may have already talked about this. Spearheaded by the local newspaper were a bunch of us who are trying to get something together for the country's 250th anniversary, and we have a question. This gentleman may be coming up to talk about it, I don't know.
No.
I understand that we have somebody who is designated to go and attend meetings at the state level because there is money available, or there was at least. Whether it's still available or not is part of the question I have. If not, I thought that we had somebody that was designated to be part of that committee. If we don't, seems like we ought to have somebody. So that if there is money available, that would help to put on some of the events that should ought to happen, as the old question would be. The group that we put together is spearheaded, as I said, by the Newport Daily Express, and it would involve the entire county, not just Newport City. So I'll just leave it at that. If there's any information we can get from you, wonderful. If not, what can we do about it?
Thank you.
Okay, and then Adam Ortiz.
I'd just like to say thank you for all the hard work you're doing. You're making a difference.
Thank you.
It's like gardening. You start out with just dirt and the imagination of what's going to be, and slowly but surely things are coming better. It's not going to happen like this, and you're not going to make everybody happy all at once, but things are getting better slowly. I notice a difference. I've been here. Before I lived here, I've seen the way this place was, and it's getting better, little by little. Not too many people have the attention span to watch all the meetings. It takes me 3 or 4 days to watch 30-minute videos sometimes. Thank you for your service. You're doing good work. Things are getting better. And if there's anything I can do within my abilities, I'd like to be of service. But I started a regular job, so my schedule's not what it was.
Thank you. Anyone online? I don't see anybody with any public comment. Okay, moving on to item 5. Council members, I have a revised appointment sheet for us to look at. I'll pass them down. There was one mistake on the previous sheet, which was that it said that Melissa Pedersen was for reappointment this year, and that Dennis Jeanette was not to the, which one are we talking about? That's the DRB, right, Development Review Board, and it got it backward, basically. So that's been adjusted, So I'll just review quickly what's on the sheet and then invite a motion. I'll ask if there are any comments or questions or concerns about anything you see on the sheet, and we'll do one motion to approve all of it. We're recommending no action on city manager. DPW, Superintendent Streets and Waterworks, of course, would be Tom Bernier. Chief of Police, Travis Bingham. Board of Fire Wardens would be Kevin Lacoste, and the Assistant Chiefs, James LeClaire II, and Second Assistant Chief, Andrew Carbine. Director of Rec would be Mike Brown. To the Recreation Committee, for reappointment, Jennifer Smith on a term till 2028. Kyle Chadburn also on a term till 2028. And there's a little bit of an odd request here that we ask for an appointment as a non-voting member of Ivy Crow from Derby for a term until 2028. And the reason for that is that there's a requirement that there be a majority of Newport City residents. And Ivy's appointment would mean that we would be out of compliance. So this is to invite her on as a member with voice, but no vote. Appointment to assessor would be Frank Cheney. Frank Cheney would be appointed as collector of taxes, acting collector of taxes, and as zoning administrator. City attorneys would be SP&F. The Cemetery Commission would be reappointments of Paul Manette, Dennis Chanette, and Jean Condon. City landscaper Robert Goslin. Planning Commission and Historic Preservation would be appointing Carol O'Connor to another 3-year term. Harbor Master, we would be appointing interim Richard Story because Patrick is away on an extended leave right now. Harbor Commission, we're asking to reappoint Tom Latta, William Round, and Ronald Chafee. Development Review Board, appointment of David Kerr to a 2-year term, Lori Grimm to a 2-year term, Jay Walsh to a 2-year term, Dennis Chanette to a 2-year term. Animal Control Officer would, for the moment at least, continue to be Newport Police. Health Officer, position held by Mike Brown. He would be appointed to that position. Grants Administrator, Frank Cheney. Tree Warden, Robert Goslin. Representative to NVDA, I would serve in that role. Building Safety Officer would be Frank Cheney. The 9/11 Coordinator for Emergencies would be Fire Chief Kevin Lacoste. And Emergency Management Director would also be Fire Chief Kevin Lacoste. Auditors, we would take action later this evening on the agenda on this item based on a recommendation, and no appointments are necessary for grand jurors. Council members, do you have any questions about any of those recommendations?
For Harbor Commission, it's acceptable or okay that at least 2 of those 3 are not residents of Newport, but of Newport Center?
Yeah, I think, Mike, do you want to speak to that?
I think it's a majority.
Come to the mic, please, each time.
I mean, they're great people. I'm just asking about the residency
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, they've always been on, they've been on for
Yeah.
a long time. And I believe it's the same thing as the rec committee, that a majority have to be Newport residents. I think Jim can probably correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank
Thank you.
Other question members or questions, council members?
No, I was just going to answer the Harbor Commission one the same way. The ordinance of the state enabling legislation specifically allow people from around the lake, not just
No,
Newport.
just Newport.
Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else have questions or concerns in the community about the appointments that have been proposed? Okay, hearing none. Oh, do we have someone online? No, that's admitting a guest. Okay, so, council members, do I have a motion to approve the appointments as laid out on this worksheet?
So moved.
A motion, do I have a second?
A second?
And a second from Sharon. Yes, and
I do have a comment.
please go to the microphone.
Sure. I do have a comment about this, and that is that Jay, with his excellent reading, has raised issues and they will be addressed in 12. And the question is whether or not some of these positions have automatically been vacated if the people have not been bonded. And so I would ask you to reserve your decision with respect to bonding. I think it would be the, with reappointing the people that Jay raised as an issue and that the charter raises as an issue. with respect to public works, I guess the city manager or any acting kind of city manager, and any other person who has recently been up for bonding and not gotten rebonded until Jay makes that point in 12.
Thank you for your comment. Council members, we have a motion and a second. Is it your interest to try and go ahead with that vote now, or would you prefer to put this off until later in the meeting?
Won't change my decision.
I would say move forward with it because anyone on here has previously been bonded.
Well, Section 32 of the charter, depending upon the decision later on, actually provides a grace period before the bonds are required in any event, so we might as well proceed.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is an executive session as per 1 VSA 313AA regarding review of a proposed contract agreement with the Northeast Police Benevolent Association. So, Andrew, I believe you have the language to get us into that executive session.
I move to find that premature public knowledge of labor negotiations and attorney-client privilege communications would place the city council at a substantial disadvantage, including disclosing confidential information and potentially waiving attorney-client privilege.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Andrew?
So under 1 VSA Section 313A, 1B, and F, I move to enter executive session and invite legal counsel and Chief of Police Travis Bingham into the meeting, into executive session.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll note that what Andrew just cited is different than what we had put, the section of the VSA section was listed as AA, and it's been listed appropriately here with help from our attorney as 1B and F. So we're discussing 1 VSA section 313A, 1B, and F as the justification for a review of proposed contract agreement. Any comments or questions about that? All those in favor, please. Oh, and Andrew, who are we inviting into that executive session?
Legal counsel and Chief of Police Travis Bingham.
So John Klesch, Travis Bingham are welcome to stay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? We are in executive session. Okay, council members, may I have a motion to come out of executive session during which no action was taken?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item number 7, which was placed in there on the chance that we might be ready to review and ratify a final contract tonight with the Northeast Police Benevolence Association. We are not ready to do that, so we're going to skip item 7 on the agenda. Item number 8, assuming Carter is in a secure enough cell phone coverage spot to do so, is to review the Stansted resolution regarding water purity in Lake Memphremagog that we talked about several months ago. Carter, can you hear us, see us? Are we all set?
I can hear you guys.
No, we need to get some more audio here. Hold on. Okay, speak some more.
Good evening. This is coming out.
It's not ideal. I'm wondering about your,
Turn up the board. Does that have a volume on there?
turn it up over here is what you're saying? Try again, Carter.
Hello. Good evening. Does any matter? I'm closing as many tabs as I can without losing y'all.
I think that's probably okay. Okay, let's try it.
Okay. I hear that you guys are going kind of robot too. Okay, so I also have some slides to try to help the conversation, but at any point if we realize that this is difficult and me shepherding and leading this conversation is just not working functionally, I accept that. And just get up to me and we can bring this up at the next council meeting.
Yeah, you know, Carter, I think my judgment is that the technology's failing us.
Well, I think she's in and
Saying
out.
that,
Good service.
It's just choppy enough that it's gonna be very hard, even for those of us at the table, to hear you. So I know that there's at least one person, maybe several in the room tonight who came to speak to this issue. And maybe what we could do is allow them to speak, but not take action on anything, Carter, until the next regular meeting 2 weeks from now. Does that sound like an okay way to proceed?
yes, yes, and I apologize about the technology errors. I definitely thought just high-speed internet would be good enough, but.
You would think that there would be high-speed internet on a high-speed train, but perhaps that's not a thing.
You would think.
Okay, so for tonight, without taking any action, I think we're just going to ask if there's anyone in the room who would like to speak to the question of the Stansted resolution that was sent to us. I think it was right around the end of the year, beginning of January. Or you are welcome to speak tonight or to wait and speak 2 weeks from now if you prefer. Is anyone here to speak to that?
I could speak to it.
Go ahead. I'll just remind you to share your name and where you're from.
I'm Teresa Gerade, and I live here in Newport. I'm part of the Don't Undermine Men for Magog group, which people call the dump group. So the resolution, for those that don't know, was by MCI, who is Men for Magog Conservation up in Quebec. And they got a number of towns around the lake to make a resolution to ban the disposal of leachate, whether it's treated or untreated, anywhere in the Men for Magog watershed, which would include the Newport City wastewater treatment facility, as well as anything in South Bay or anywhere in the watershed. And the reason they wrote this resolution at this time, I believe, is because the operation of the landfill, they are experimenting with a treatment system to remove PFAS from the leachate. And it has not been permitted. It's gonna be a pilot, but right now it's running in test mode, and it has some shortcomings. And without getting too into the weeds, I just have a few bullets that I could read that are current, and maybe folks can think about that in the next 2 weeks when you ponder the resolution.
Thank you.
Okay. There's 2 times a year, there's a water quality report that the landfill operation releases, and it shows the amount of PFAS in this leachate. People probably know what PFAS is, but it's a very toxic chemical, forever chemical, and you can't get rid of it. It's in all kinds of textiles. Anyway, a bunch of stuff we put in the dump is loaded with PFAS. So the leachate, which is the liquid that flows through the waste, ends up taking on a lot of these chemicals. And a wastewater treatment facility, no matter how good it is at what it does for the city, it was never designed to remove this chemical, so it's falls short. So the water quality report shows that this leachate, the sum of all PFAS that they measure, and there's like 4,000 compounds, they measure like 26, was over 10,300 parts per trillion. 2 of these, they say there's no safe level, and they even have like 0.4 parts per trillion is the acceptable level. So we're way beyond that, as you can tell. The state of Vermont only regulates 5 of these compounds. And there are so many more that are harmful, but that's where we are. Newport's drinking water source protection area, I don't know if you folks know where it is, but it's pretty close to the South Bay, pretty close to the landfill. Folks in the past have said it's not an issue because the aquifer comes from the other direction, but aquifers change, the watershed changes, so it's still a little bit scary that it's that close to the landfill.
Teresa, I'm just going to ask you to try and wrap up in about a minute or so.
Yep. They did sampling in the lake. There is PFAS in the lake. It's not a high level, but all the fish that they sampled do have harmful PFAS in it, close to limits for safe consumption. So the PFAS doesn't break down, and that's why we want to prohibit having leachate treated or not in the lake. The guy who sold, the company that sold this treatment system says that the leachate treated by the system is not to be discharged into any water body that is a drinking water source. And over 175,000 Canadians get their drinking water from the sources, Lake Memphremagog. They obviously treat it, but not to remove PFAS. So those are just some things to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome to come back. I'm sorry for the technology
No,
problems.
that's okay.
Enjoy the
Thank
season.
you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, Carter, then if it's okay, I'm going to move us on to the next item.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Teresa, for coming. And I look forward to continuing this conversation with everybody once I'm independent to do so.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding Gardner Park Sewer Siphon Project. I'm going to ask Tom Bernier, DPW, to come to the microphone so that he can help me present. And I think we've also got Nate P. on here tonight to present on this. So Tom, you want to start us off? Or you want Nate to do it? How do you want to do this?
Doesn't matter.
Go ahead, why don't you start us?
So just a little bit of history, I'll try to be brief about it. So the siphon is down on the causeway next to the information. There's always been a concrete manhole cone stuck up on the river right there. That's what we call a single barrel sewer line that goes underneath the riverbed. We have 2 single barrels in the city, and it doesn't meet the standard. Normally you have a double barrel or two pipe system. That line was put in 1963, and it's in good shape. Part of this project, they're going to line that existing pipe along with a directional bore for a new 8-inch line underneath the river that will hook, the 2 systems would be hooked together going through the park to alleviate having that single barrel sewer pipe, which since I've been with the city of Newport, has plugged a few times through the years. The rest of the existing transite line that runs through the park goes underneath through the softball field, underneath the playground, and underneath the hockey rink. Will all be lined with I could have Nate describe it a little further, the lining that will be put through that pipe to preserve that existing pipe for years to come. Nate, you still online?
Let's see.
Yes, I'm here, Tom.
Go ahead and explain the project a little further if you'd like.
Yeah, so like Tom said, we're aiming to bring this up to current standards. So there's a single barrel siphon underneath the Clyde River from the Causeway side over the Gardner Park. Goes underneath Clyde. We're looking to add a second siphon under there via directional drill. And then once that new siphon is in service, we will take the existing out of service, we'll clean it, we'll line it with a cured in place pipe via UV cure. And then we'll also cure with cured in place pipe the gravity section from the ballpark side on closest to the Clyde River all the way down towards where the ice rink is, or the skate park. So that all the gravity sewer, which is asbestos cement, will be cured in place pipe. So we won't have to disturb any soil with the curing, but we will be tying in a couple new manholes to the existing sewer collection system in the park and also on the Causeway side. So that's the project that we presented on recently. I think for those that were in attendance a couple months ago, with the finding of no significant impact. We opened bids on Tuesday of last week. Bids came in a little higher than the engineer's estimate due to some of the soil and groundwater contamination. We've presented a bid analysis report to City Council, which was in the packet. Isaac's Excavation and Construction LLC of Charleston was the apparent low. with a bid amount of $587,555. So the bid analysis report's in the packet. We've done some data crunching, number crunching with the city, and believe that it is fundable to do this with the existing sources of funding that is available through the CSO ARPA grant, some reserves, and some other additional funding sources. So looking tonight for any questions, happy to answer those. And then also looking for a motion from City Council to concur with the contract award recommendation. And I've got Jason Booth on the line, President of Aldrich and Elliott, with me as well.
Oh, great. Welcome, Jason. I didn't see that. So, council members, do you have questions regarding the contract proposal?
Did you only have Jensen's?
He was the only bidder.
He was the only one who bid. So you really don't have any comparison, do we?
As Nate had mentioned, with some of the treatment process that we have to go through for the water, really significantly raised the price of the project.
So, Tom, are you the one best prepared, or it should be one of these guys online, or maybe Frank, to just kind of give a quick overview of where this project's been kicking around for a while, right? So where is the funding intended to come from, and how we picture making it work?
So currently, we initially got a $784,000 ARPA grant. We spent a portion of that on the Bluff Road Pump Station, and we have roughly, I believe it's $650,000 left of that project, of the ARPA funds. So if you look at where the pricing came in total, yeah, we are, I believe it's $150,000 shy of that. Working with the state, there may be some funds left from other ARPA grants that are out there. So we're looking at other avenues on how we're gonna make this project work, but I believe we can certainly get there. I can't stress the importance of having this project take place. I don't know as if we'll get any other ARPA funds down the road. Like I said, we do have another sewer line that goes under the bay by the Long Bridge that takes everything from the west side of town. This line takes everything on the east side of town, excluding Indian Head, probably, I think it's Blake, Sloan, and Jackson. Everything else on the east side goes across that river on the causeway. So I can't stress the importance of making this project happen.
And there's a time limit on the ARPA funds as well as.
There is, and the contract, the other reason too we're pushing is the contractor has a tight schedule. Most contractors are extremely busy, the few that are still out there. So he really'd like to get on this project quickly, April, May, and be done, which actually works for the city as well, because that park is extremely busy in the summer months.
Tom, does it involve digging up? Is it all gonna be done underground, or are we gonna be dug up again?
So the directional bore goes underneath the riverbed.
Yeah.
The only place that's gonna be excavated is in that softball field that's along the river there, where they're gonna have to install 2 manholes. So there'll be small areas of excavation. So really the contractor, he's doing the manholes and tying in the directional bore. And then the other bulk of the project is slip lining the sewer lines to, give it a new inner liner.
And just, if I'm misstating this, please correct me, because I just want to be sure I'm saying it correctly. In your judgment, there are funding sources likely to come together that would preclude the necessity of trying to raise rates in the sewer fund in order to cover the cost of this project.
I don't know as if I'd want to say that, but I believe not.
Okay, so can we say that if it looks as if that calculation is not correct, we come back for another conversation about it?
Sure.
Tom and Rick, if I could interject for a sec.
Please.
So we did get clarification from the state regarding a couple of funding with regards to this project. One was a couple of the loans that the city had in place for the preliminary engineering and the long-term control plan, which was sort of predates all these projects. So the state said the loans for the preliminary engineering were 100% subsidy through the Clean Water SRF loan. So that equates to about $69,000 in subsidy for the previous loans. The long-term control plan and the level monitoring that was also completed prior to these two projects was also eligible for 100% subsidy loan, which is about just under $75,000. So that was all money that was, part of the loan that is being returned as subsidy to the city. So that's upwards of, $140,000 to help cut that deficit that we talked about. And I know, Tom, you had mentioned you set aside some funds when we talked back in January about maybe the overrun that we anticipated back then before we got into the groundwater and the soil contamination.
Yeah, that's correct, Nate. We talked about possibly being 30,000 over, and I knew I could cover that.
So with those elements currently, and also we have some bid items that will likely not get used. I think we're, hovering around being able to fund this with those avenues or those subsidies, assuming, the city applies those to these projects to cover that overrun. But that's the city decision, obviously.
And those are not funds that are currently designated to go somewhere else.
Well, these are funds, most of it, that we've already.
Reimbursement for expenses on this
Yes.
project.
Yeah.
Right. Other questions from council members? Other questions from members of the community? Come to the microphone, please, Teresa. Don't go far, Tom.
I may have missed your explanation about the contamination that you hit, and I was just wondering, how did that impact how you have to do this project? And do you know what the contamination is? And is there a way that you can remediate the area that you need to work in? Or I'm wondering a little bit more about the contamination that you mentioned.
Sure. So the contamination is soil and groundwater. The primary contaminant is arsenic in the soil. So as part of this, any soil that's removed as part of the excavation, as Tom alluded to, the two manholes and the short stub of pipe, that'll be stored on site, tested, and disposed of at a proper landfill location. The groundwater is also contaminated with high levels of arsenic. So as part of the watering process, we will have a frac tank on there to collect solids, and then a dual carbon filter to treat the groundwater as it discharges from the frac tank, and then it'll be discharged over land after it goes through that those treatment cells, the granular activated carbon.
Thank you. Other questions from members of the community? Okay, hearing none. So Tom and Nate, if I understand you correctly, what we're looking for is a motion to approve the recommendation from Aldridge and Elliott that we just award the contract to Isaac's Excavation and Construction LLC of Charleston, Vermont for the contract amount of $587,555. That's appropriately worded. I'll invite that motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
No second.
And a second from Sharon. Any further conversation? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion carries. So don't go anywhere quite yet, Nate. I just want to make sure I get the right signatures. It looks to me like there's one signature needed on page, oh no, that's town roads. Is there a signature we need on this?
No.
Okay.
You're all set.
All right. So I think that's all we need, Nate. And Jason, thank you so much for coming tonight too. I appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care. Thank you.
All right, so Tom, you'll stay right there because we need you for the next one. Great. Okay, next item on the agenda is the state annual financial plan for town highways. Tom, go ahead.
It's something we do every year. I met with the state on April 27th. We meet to discuss our financials, which is actually the second page you're going to look at and sign. It's all based on our class 1, 2, and 3 road mileage that we will get from the state of Vermont. It's all based on my budget, street maintenance, winter maintenance. You can see all the numbers in there. Special funding, which is capital street paving. So that's the second one. The first one, basically the 3 forms we have to sign is that we approve the town road and bridge standards. We accept the state's standards into our standards, and what that does for us is anytime we apply for their grants, we're getting typically a 90% or 80% depending on the grant. Otherwise, if you don't accept their standards, you may not get the grant, basically. We've always put in, with my budget and capital funds for equipment and roads, we've always met their $300 per lane mile. So again, we're in their threshold for their class 1, 2, and 3 paving. So those are the 3 forms I've got laid out there in front of you that I need to have the city council sign. They sign, we sign this every year.
Council members, any questions?
I've got one. I know this was asked at our last meeting, but approximately how many miles of roads are we talking about in the city of Newport?
It's 37 and change.
37-ish.
Any other questions from council members? Members in the community, any questions? Okay, so Tom, if I understand it correctly, what you want is a motion to approve the town road and bridges standards for dated January 21st, 2026, and then you want our signatures following that on 3 different pages.
Correct.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the town road and bridges standards dated January 21, 2026 for the municipality of City of Newport, Vermont?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from John. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. So I'm going to sign. And we'll just take a moment here and get all these signatures done. And Carter will ask you to come in when you get home and sign this, okay? I'm going to take that for a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, if you all could just sign on those 3 pages. Tom, if you want to move ahead with that, I don't think you need Carter's signature on it to send it, right?
I can wait.
You've got a okay, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter either way. I can collect them tomorrow.
Okay. Well, Carter's out of town, so she won't be back for probably a week. So I think you've got a unanimous council vote, so you can go ahead with it if you want.
Yep. Thank you.
I could digitally sign, like if you scanned it, I could have my signature, say that back and read it, but I kind of agree with the consensus that illustrating 4 signatures, significant.
Okay, so maybe you and Carrie could work that out tomorrow, Carter. Set? So who wants that? Tom, do you want it? Carrie? Jim, who wants to? I just want to make sure we end up with it in the right place so we don't have to redo this.
I'll take it
Okay, great.
so that I can digitally get it signed in the morning.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving along. The next item on the agenda is item 11. I think I'll ask Frank Cheney, our assessor, to come for this one, right, Cheney?
Up to the podium.
To the podium.
This will be short. I will comment briefly on the CSO project to answer your question a little bit more. We filed a state-approved soil and groundwater mitigation plan. That process was, it has then gone through the floodplain manager, considering those risks as well, which is, I think, where a lot of the cost overruns are coming from, in making sure that there is no issue prior to a DRB approval for this process. So we should be able to move forward without any concerns in that regard. By the cost amount, which is where the overrun. We have started the process of having a tax sale for the city of Newport delinquent properties, tentatively scheduled for sometime in the middle of the summer, hopefully July, middle of July. However, the process has been made significantly more difficult with recent legislative action. So it may be August, right? But we are shooting for July at this particular point. The first step in that process is assigning an attorney, a legal firm, a law firm, to conduct this tax sale for us. That has to happen first, and then we can move on to the formal process of initiating the tax sale. What I'm looking for is a motion, and to have the minutes reflect this statement specifically, a motion to approve SP&F Attorneys, PC, to conduct the city's tax sale process commenced in 2026. Any questions?
Council members, any questions about this?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion from John to approve SP&F Attorneys PC to conduct the city's tax sale process commenced in 2026. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Ian.
I just want to know
Please
if,
come to the microphone. Thank you.
I'm not familiar with the process, and I just wanted to know if traditionally we have assigned in the past an attorney to conduct the city's tax sale, or if it's been done by a city manager or somebody in the Treasury Department.
SP&F.
Thank you. Frank, come back to the mic, please, to speak to that.
Sorry, I gotta get the protocol down.
Yeah.
SP&F has historically, as far as I know, and Jim would know better than I.
It's always been an attorney who did it,
Yeah.
with them or somebody else.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Jay.
So I'm just curious, Frank, do you have an idea of how much property we're talking about value-wise, or is that something still in the assessment?
So that's, I do. I'm not prepared to give a specific number tonight. It's a little bit more of a moving target now because the state has changed the rules, and a tax delinquency must be at least 12 months old before it can be sent to tax scale, whereas in past years, okay, the minute that it had become delinquent, it could then be turned around. So what happens is you create this moving target, so to speak, as things, for instance, May's coming up, okay? Once we get past the 15th of May, okay, last year's taxes that were due on that date would then be 12 months old and could be moved. Okay, so the amount is not as identifiable on a given date as it used to be. So we'll see what happens after the 15th.
And Frank, while you're there, could you also speak to, when was the last time we did a tax sale?
So to the best of my knowledge, and you correct me, Jim, because I wasn't involved with it, it's been over 2 years.
I think it was in 22.
Yeah,
22,
almost 3.
Okay.
Been a while.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to see this one moving ahead, so thank you. So we have a motion on the table and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the complaint for violation of charter regarding bonding certain officials or employees of the city of Newport. And I do have copies of the complaint to enter into public record and make them available. Let me just make sure I can find it.
Sir Mayor, do I call you Sir Mayor, Mr. Mayor?
Just say, hey Rick, what do you
Hey
need?
Rick, I have a point of order here.
What's your point of order?
The point of
Actually,
order.
no, come, if you're gonna speak, come to the microphone, please.
Everybody should know that by now, don't you?
Go ahead.
The point of order I have is that this complaint has been filed pursuant to Vermont open meeting law, specifically 1 VSA 314B2. And that pertains to the enforcement of open meeting laws, specifically subchapter 2, which is public information, which is the right to attend meetings, the warning of meetings, and the abuse of executive session. A charter violation is not part of the open meeting law. And as such, the remedy is that one would need to go to Superior Court. So the council's consideration of this issue tonight, Mr. Walsh does not have legal standing to do it, and it would be inappropriate for the council to take a look at, or to consider this complaint because it is defective on its face.
Thank you for your comment. So there are 10 copies. If somebody wants to pass them out, you're welcome to. If we don't have enough, Carrie can make some more for us. I want to speak briefly to the history, unless another council member would like to do it.
All I was going to say was that in terms of Ms. Burling's comment is exactly on point. The complaint is based on complete misinterpretation of the open meeting law.
Yep. So, having heard that, council members, y'all can decide what we want to do, but I want to just give a brief kind of history of where we are. It was a decision of this council about a month ago, I haven't looked up the actual date, based on advice from Vermont League of Cities and Towns and our attorneys at SPNF, that our crime insurance policy has more than sufficient coverage for all employees and elected officials, appointed officials of the city of Newport. So we made a decision at that meeting that that sufficed for the requirement for bonding public employees or public officials. When this complaint came in, I consulted briefly with SPNF. I said to them that one of my concerns was that we not spend more money on legal fees than we would have on bonding in the first place. Because the whole point of the council, as I understood it, was not to double dip and pay for something we didn't need to pay for. So the council can choose how they would like to respond to this. We'll take public comment in a moment, but I'm going to ask council to speak first if you'd like to. One possibility is to take no action if we think that there's a persuasive case that the action doesn't need to be our action of a month ago doesn't need to be defended or changed in any way. Or another possibility is to take what I would call action that meets the letter of the law in the charter. The charter says that we will bond 4 employees, and they are the clerk treasurer, what is now the Department of Public Works director, the collector of taxes, and if we have one, a city manager. So one possibility is that in order to make sure that we're meeting the letter of the kind of archaic language of the charter, would be to, using the specific word bond, we could require that those 4 employees be covered by a bond at whatever level the city council would like to set it, to simply meet that requirement. And there may be other options as well. Those are the 2 that I know of. So I'm going to ask council members if you have things you'd like to say, and we'll open up to members of the community to speak to it if they would like.
I feel that the explanation from the lawyers and the recommendation from the lawyers is we are covered. And there's no sense in moving forward because it's just gonna cost the taxpayers, including the council, and more money, and there's no need of it.
Yeah, I mean, the bonds cover only those specific people, whereas the other insurance covers literally every city employee, every city appointee, every city elected official. It's much broader coverage in that sense. And it's a higher level than the bonds historically have been, so there's better coverage in that sense. And this complaint has a lot of, I don't know where it came from, ChatGPT or something type language relating to the distinctions between bonds and insurance policies. And while it's true there are distinctions between bonds and insurance companies, the big point here seems to be trying to impose some kind of personal liability on people who are bonded or insured who somehow violate the rules. Well, insurance companies have exactly the same rights that bonding companies do in terms of the right of subrogation to pursue those people, so there's not any substantive difference there. You know, it's basically, you know, a technical distinction in terms of the way a bond is set up, but there's no practical difference of any kind. You know, having said that, if it's the judgment of the city attorneys that it's going to be cheaper to comply with the letter of the law, I'm all for going with whatever's cheapest.
Thank you, John. Sharon, do you have any comment?
I too was looking at the bottom line to answer to that question that I get doing my groceries. What are you doing to keep our tax dollars down? That's one very small area, because I felt that whether we call it a bond or insurance, it's doing the same thing, and that is to protect the municipality. And so when I put in a search that says, what does it mean for a municipal employee of Vermont to be bonded? What came up was, in Vermont, a bonded municipal employee is covered by a surety bond or crime insurance policy. And we know from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns that what we have through the insurance is a much more intense policy than what we had for the bond. And I guess I'm also curious to know what the people who are affected feel, meaning Jim and Tom, who are sitting here. Do you feel protected through the insurance that is provided from the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns?
I do. I mean, well, I've always been insured through VLCT up until the last year when I was forced to get a bond.
I've been director for 25 years.
Tom, I'm going to ask you to come to the microphone. Sorry.
Do whatever the council tells me.
Well, you
Should sit closer next time.
I've been your director for 25 years, and that was the first time I was ever bonded.
Was last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you always have felt protected with what was? Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, the real protection
Carter.
issue is the city protected?
Yeah, right. Good point. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, that's the point of either the bond or the crime insurance. And as I said before, the crime insurance actually provides the city much better protection because it covers everybody, whereas bonds cover only specific named individuals.
Carter, do you want to speak to this before we open it up to folks in the community?
I'm in agreement with the second update described as in getting a bond to meet the requirements of the charter, but really I find the VLCT policy to be thorough. And again, looking at all other sister cities, that's what they rely on. I see understanding our integrated charter and using that, but really using our VLCT coverage for, right here.
Thank you, Carter. Okay, so I will take comments from the community, from the microphone, and Andrew, I'll ask you to do 2-minute timers on it, please. Somebody like to speak to this? Jay, do you want to speak to it first? Sure.
So
So, additional members to be bonded, back in January of 2024, the city council voted to require themselves to bond as well, so that they would be included in this. They have not changed that, that stays the same. I think it's being misrepresented, the difference between bonds and insurance. They are two distinctly different entities. The bond is a three-party agreement. Insurance is only a two-party agreement. The principal is the municipal official who is the designated obligation to perform the duties. So what this does is the bond is specific to the individual, unlike insurance where you're covering the entire employee base. It's designed to effectively ensure that they will perform their duties because they are obligated financially to the bond. If the city puts a claim against the bond, then that individual becomes who the bond holder will go after to reclaim their money. Insurance does not do that. The other thing is that bonding requires a vetting of the individuals to see that they comply with the law, their background, whether they can actually hold the position that they're being bonded for. The charter states specifically bonds, and it does so for a reason, I believe. And the fact that the city has not bonded individuals over the course of the years, I think is a gross misjustice in applying the laws of our city. The request for the cure that I put in my complaint was that you identify which members are bonded currently, when they were bonded, and if there's any officers that are currently sitting without bond at this time. I believe also that the charter requires the 10-day grace period that Annette mentioned, is to, the time for that is when they are appointed. That should be an automatic. And the fact that the council doesn't have the authority to change the requirements for bonding without a charter change, and they can't do that on their own.
Thank you for your comments. Are there others who would like to make comments? Jennifer?
I'd like to respond to Mr. Walsh's comments.
Okay, just keeping in mind that you're speaking to me, please. And to the
I
council.
understand. In regard to the vetting, the current bonds for most of the city officials, including the council, were done under Western Surety. And a cursory review of Western Surety will demonstrate that it is basically a sham, that they don't do any investigatory vetting. It's self-reporting. And in the event that they later are faced with a claim, if the individual has not self-reported accurately, they deny the claim. So these bonds that supposedly were set up under the previous administration aren't worth the paper that they're written on. In reference to it being a two-party versus a three-party agreement, I would argue that most insurance policies have beneficiaries, and the city would be the beneficiary of the insurance policy, just as one has on a life insurance policy. So it's still effectively a three-party agreement, with the city being, or the taxpayers actually being the beneficiary of the policy. In reference to the language of the charter, the term bond is used. It would literally take Mr. Walsh filing a lawsuit in court, and I strongly suspect that given the date that the charter was written, and given the fact that the city has demonstrated through research, which wasn't done a couple of years ago, that the insurance policy with Vermont Leagues of Cities in Town, so VLTC, is sufficient and covers the taxpayers, that a court is going to look upon that very favorably. It's not as though the city is trying to shirk its responsibility to the taxpayers. So if you guys want to honor the letter of the law, I suppose you could put in some token bond in order to satisfy the direct language of the charter, but effectively, if the appropriate channels were followed and it was brought in front of a court, I find it hard to believe that they're going to find the city at fault when the city is doing due diligence to protect its taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Ann?
I find it highly ironic in some ways that some people who originally were demanding, some people in the public who were originally demanding bonds for a lot of people in the city now come and say that, well, it's not necessary or something the equivalent of it. The other thing is, I think it's wonderful in this city that we have people in our citizens who, well, we may not have licenses or we may not have advanced degrees, are readers. And we learned how to do that when we were 2. And we've got, some of us have 75 or plus years of it. And if there were advanced degrees in reading, many of us in this room would have those degrees. And we enjoy reading, and we enjoy discussing it. And we enjoyed reading the charter. Many of the citizens got a chance to really read the charter. And if it says something in the charter clearly for individuals specifically, and one, another one that we've never had that position, so it's really for individuals, are required to have a bond, then that's what we should do. You know, we read carefully, and that's what's required, and that's what should be done. If you want to modify the charter, then get an amendment. All the other communities that you may be talking about may rely on state law, which says, yeah, either a bond or insurance. And simply because you get a bond for 4 individuals doesn't mean you're going to give up insurance for the whole group. And as I recall, the amount of insurance for the whole group was something like $500,000. Well, that wouldn't have covered, if we could have gotten a suit going for some of the losses that we experienced, and we, the citizens, paid $1 million for, almost $1 million for the sewage situation, $1 million or more for the amount owing because of a state municipal mistake that was made over a 7-year period. It wouldn't have covered, the $500,000 wouldn't have covered. So I don't think that if you honestly sit and read the charter, as we readers have read the charter, and you see that it says a bond is needed, that it is in your discretion to do anything else but get the bond. Thank you for listening to us readers.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Pam?
It's interesting to me that the current council, with the exception of the mayor, were not here for all of the bonding discussions before. When all of the lawyers weighed in, when the lawyers in the room weighed in, bonding was pursued because that was what was in the charter. And we were made aware, and you remember this, we were made aware of the differences between insurance and bonding. We have people in this room right now who force-fed us bonding theory. And yet now we're being told, poof, it doesn't really matter. That's confusing. It's kind of demeaning and insulting because it suggests that what was forced on us before wasn't real, that there was an ulterior motive for it, despite what it says in the Charter. And some of us, as Anne pointed out, have read the Charter. So now we're being told that because somebody who put a lot of work into this and took it seriously, because he used letters that a lawyer would use or wouldn't use, therefore it should all be dismissed. We're not lawyers, we're citizens. And damn it, we have a right to search for information, present it to you, and expect respect for that. However, that's not what's happening. And one of the questions, this has come up again and again, one of the questions that was asked is, you're talking about criminal prosecution. What about things that happen that aren't criminal, that are negligence? You blew that off when it was raised before, but it's real. And you've been here long enough to know several examples where that could have happened. So for example, somebody on Spruce Street who was basically told that her plumbing problem was her problem, whereas it wasn't, and it ended up with the whole of Spruce Street and part of Black Road not only being dug up, but a dynamite expert having to come in because her house was so damaged. She didn't sue the city because she's a really nice person, but she could have done. And frankly, the way she was treated, it wouldn't have surprised me if she did. It was not okay. What does cover people working for the council who misdiagnose, make a mistake, or blow somebody off? That's not criminal, but it sure isn't okay. Where do citizens come in this?
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else who would like to speak to this matter? No, Jay, we're not going to do twice. Anybody else who would like to speak to this matter for the first time? Okay, hearing none. Council, it's back to you. I'm open to your suggestions about how to move forward. Or your reflections about anything you've heard, whatever you'd like to tell me.
I'm interested in the comment about bond companies vetting people. I've been bonded 20 or 30 times in the course of my career. And I've dealt with defalcations on bonds a number of times. And I can tell you that the vetting that I went through each year to maintain the title insurance license was far more substantial than the combined total amount of vetting I went through for all of those bonds. And I can also tell you with experience in collecting on bonds that generally speaking, bonds won't pay unless there is a civil judge, after there's a civil judgment or a criminal prosecution. We've had experiences with defaults on fiduciary bonds, and it took, the bonds pay only if there's a money issue involved. They don't pay for negligence or poor quality of duty. They pay if there's a monetary loss. And they also would not pay until either there was a civil judgment for a sum of money or a criminal prosecution for some form of financial crime, financial fraud. Until then, the bond does nothing. And insurance companies pay for financial losses as well. And contrary to some of the representations that have been made here tonight, insurance companies do in fact go after the people that are ultimately responsible for the problem. They have every right to do so, and they frequently do it. So in that sense, there's no substantive difference between a bond and insurance. And in terms of some of the claims about, well, if we had a bond, we could have gotten back sewer money. Well, I'm not sure how you could get back sewer money when a council makes a policy decision not to raise rates for 7 years. I mean, that's certainly nothing that you can chase bonds or insurance for. That was a political policy decision, no different than the federal government running deficits perpetually. Different in one sense, in the sense that the council, unlike the federal government, doesn't print money, but You can't collect against insurance for a political decision or a bond for a political decision. It requires a civil judgment or a criminal case. But again, having said that, if the least expensive resolution of this is some form of nominal bond, that's fine by me.
I do think we've really got three choices, as I understand it. One is to take no action, and then pursue whatever comes next. Another is to take action to bond the people named in the charter, the specific titles, job titles named in the charter, at a minimal amount. We've done some cursory research. You can get a $5,000 bond for somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 to $100 per person. So we could, with a very minimal expense, meet the letter of the law in the charter. Or if we are persuaded that the charter demands greater than that, we could do what we've been doing, which is to go and find bonds, to have bonds written that are more substantial. In my case, the bond that I had for the last 2 years was for $100,000. I think in Tom's case and Jim's cases, they were $500,000.
City manager too.
City manager as well. The crime insurance coverage is for $500,000 per person, as I understand it. So I'm interested in the will of the council at this point about how you would like to move ahead.
Well, for sake of getting the discussion going, I'll make a motion that the clerk treasurer, tax collector, and public works director, AKA superintendent of streets and waterworks, each be bonded in the amount of $1,000.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll say that the initial work that Carrie did in response to this question was that at least one company we reached out to was saying that $5,000 was the least amount of coverage they would offer. So I would want to make sure that whatever decision we make sure that it's executable.
Okay, well, I'll amend my motion to say the lowest amount that the company will write.
The lowest amount the company will write. Carter, that's an amendment from the maker of the motion. Do you concur?
I do concur.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to bond those three positions as required by charter at the lowest allowable limit that we can find.
Yeah, technically 4 positions: clerk, treasurer, tax collector.
Thank you. Right, clerk, treasurer combined. Now, I'm not going to take any more comment. So, council members, do you have any further conversation you want to have about this? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Oh, this could be a first for me. Okay, I will vote in favor of the motion to bond at the least amount possible to cover this. So the motion carries. Okay. Moving on to item number 13. This is a consideration of a complaint filed by Jay Walsh regarding potential conflicts of interest for council members John Manette, Carter Finnegan, and myself, Mayor Rick Ufford Chase. And again, I have had copies made up, got 10 copies of the original motion. I'll pass those out first, or ask someone else to, please. And it's my judgment that council should have the opportunity to speak to this in the same way that they've had the opportunity to speak to every other thing that comes before us, particularly council members who have been brought up on some kind of complaint. So I'll ask John and Carter first, if you would like to speak to the matter at hand. I'll ask if Sharon or Andrew would like to speak to it. Then I have a statement I would like to read, and then we'll take comments from the public, and then we'll come back and have any further conversation. John, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, in a nutshell, it's my position that there is no conflict of interest. The claim is that somehow my volunteer service as a member of the Housing Committee of Newport Downtown Development creates some kind of per se conflict, and I absolutely disagree with that. It's my view that I have zero conflict. I don't intend to recuse myself from any matter involving Newport Downtown Development. The language of the statute specifically says that a conflict of interest requires a direct or indirect interest in the outcome of a matter that differs from that of the public as a whole. It specifically says that any interest that is not greater than that of other individuals generally affected by the outcome of the matter is by definition not a conflict. As I said, I'm a volunteer. Nobody in my family or extended family, nobody I'm associated with in terms of my professional practice has any ties to Newport Downtown Development. I don't own any real estate in Newport other than my home, which is 2 miles from downtown. To the extent that Newport Downtown Development accomplishes things that benefit the community, they don't benefit me any more or less than anyone else. The standard for judging whether or not there's a conflict or appearance of conflict is a reasonable individual with knowledge of the relevant facts. And it's hard to imagine how a volunteer who's deriving zero direct or indirect financial benefit has any form of conflict. So in a nutshell, it's my position. I don't have one period end of conversation.
And John, do you have a disclosure of conflict of interest form?
I filled out the form. I changed the boilerplate. The boilerplate actually presumes that there is a conflict. So I changed it to read alleged conflict in a couple of places. But I have it. I think it goes to Jim.
I think it goes to Jim. Yeah. Thank you. Carter, would you like to speak to this?
Can you hear me? I have switched to this line. Okay.
Much better.
Great. Well, on this topic, I basically echo John's summary and synopsis of how this all plays in. I'm a member of the events committee. I joined shortly after moving to Newport, and we facilitate and organize community events for Newport. And I don't see how that would at all benefit me or my neighbors. And this matter is really minimal. So, yeah, not just to waste people's time, but I would also need to what's the name, not repeat it. So moving forward, I'm happy to talk about this budget more and make it really clear, but I will not perceive myself in voting on this matter or volunteering.
Okay, and Carter has provided me with a disclosure of conflict of interest. And so I'll pass that down to Jim as well, that basically says in short form what Carter just said. Anything else you'd like to add now, Carter?
No, thank you.
Okay. I also was named as a person with a conflict of interest. I'll ask for everyone's indulgence, particularly the council members, because my response, which I have been thinking about quite a bit over the last 4 days since I learned about this on Thursday, has been it's much on my mind. So city council members, commission and committee and task force members, those who are in the room and those who are not, Newport staff, and community residents. In my judgment, Newport is at a crossroads. Our taxes are high. I'm told we have something like the 9th highest tax rate in the state, while our median household income is nearly the lowest in the state. We were unfairly caught up in the EB5 scandal that has defined our community's collective psyche for a decade, exemplified by an empty block in the heart of our small downtown, that is a constant reminder of the way that our trust as a community was abused. In the past 6 months, we've restructured more than $2 million of debt, consisting of accrued deficits over the last decade, into a more manageable form for the long-time stability and solvency of the city. The 2 special task forces, the members of City Council, and the voters who authorized these stabilization notes, in my judgment, are to be commended for acting responsibly to address concerns which, at the very least, our previous leaders were not paying attention to, much less taking obvious measures to address. We've had a succession of leaders who intentionally polarized and divided our community into us and them, often turning social media spaces, the local newspapers, and city council meetings themselves into free-for-alls in which council members, city staff, and community residents were encouraged to choose up sides as if it were blood sport. As a community, we battled one another with legal actions, ethical complaints, open meeting law violation allegations, and largely political requests for public records that distract our elected leaders and our staff from the work of running the city, and that result in significant legal bills for a city that is facing serious financial challenges. Perhaps most importantly, in my judgment, while some in our community have fully embraced a culture of identifying allies and adversaries, most people in our community have simply opted out of the arena of city governance entirely. This is characterized by the language I hear all the time. Newport will never be able to get out of its own way. Why should I step forward when I'm going to get attacked for trying to help? Newport is a shit show, and anyone who thinks it can be better is a fool. These perceptions are devastating for the future of our city. In the past year, our council has tried to model a different way of being. We've recruited more than 20 volunteers to join special task forces to take on our most important challenges, even while those already appointed to our established commissions and committees have continued to try to keep their heads down and just do their work. I believe we've shown the value of working together and seeking to bring out the best in one another. We've made difficult decisions as a council, stabilized our financial situation, and brought a renewed level of openness to our financial reporting and budgeting. We tried to model what it means to listen respectfully to one another and to engage thoughtfully with members in the community, which, just to be clear, does not mean that the council will always please everyone with every decision that we make. Hard choices are what elected representatives are tasked to take on. So when there are allegations that there are council members who have an either actual or perceived conflict of interest that they are not addressing, it is something that I take extremely seriously. In the case of the accusation that Council President Carter Finnegan and Council Member John Minette have a conflict of interest regarding anything having to do with the city's partnership with Newport Downtown Development because they volunteer with NDD's events crew in Carter's case, or NDD's housing committee in John's, both of them have responded to that allegation with a statement of non-recusal that I fully support. If being a volunteer for something that the city has an interest in constitutes a conflict of interest, a city the size of ours will be unable to function, much less to thrive. Volunteer firefighters will be unable to serve on city council, nor will our teachers in our schools, or those who offer critical social services in our community, or people who own businesses, to name just a few. In my judgment, we need those people and many others at the table, and we want them to share in the deliberations about matters with which they actually have experience. Of course, if they or a family member stand to benefit financially from a decision that the council is making, they must recuse themselves. But in discussions about matters that impact important subjects where they have no potential for personal gain, the last thing we should desire is for them to recuse themselves. In my own case, the accusation that I have something personal to gain in matters related to Newport Downtown Development is obviously more challenging. This is why we have a process of allowing a council member to explain why something that might be perceived as a conflict isn't one in their judgment. For the record, as I have stated publicly before over the last 2 years, I am the director of Newport Downtown Development. For the last several years, I've received a salary of $50,000 with no benefits from that organization for approximately 30 hours of work per week. Starting around 2017 or 2018, NDD began receiving a grant of $30,000 per year from the city's operating budget to support its efforts to revitalize downtown Newport. This took place long before I was involved in NDD or in the city of Newport. For several years, that grant was augmented by an additional $30,000 per year from the Walmart funds that were initially given to support downtown Newport's economic development. That Walmart funding grant to NDD was terminated in 2023 in order to ensure that the remaining funds would be available for long-term economic development initiatives. At that time, NDD began a strategy of raising funds through lead sponsorships from local businesses, which now accounts for more than $75,000 of NDD's $200,000 annual budget. In December of 2024, the City Council voted unanimously, with my recusal as a council member due to a conflict of interest, to sign a memorandum of understanding in which NDD agreed to coordinate the process of determining the feasibility of tax increment financing for the City of Newport and to manage a potential TIF application to the state of Vermont if the City Council chooses to move forward. Since my election as mayor in March of 2025, I have attended most of the meetings related to the city's economic development, along with Dave LaForce, an NDD board member, and Brian Gray, an NDD volunteer who is our economic development coordinator. Some of those meetings were also attended by a council member, and council members have had an open invitation to join those meetings whenever they are available. I have announced in every meeting I have attended that I am there in my capacity as mayor of the city of Newport. As agreed in that MOU, NDD has taken no compensation beyond that regular grant of $30,000 that they have been receiving for years from the city of Newport. And NDD has met regularly and often with City Council to update the council members and to consult about how best to move forward. In January of 2024, I filed a statement that I was not recusing myself from a vote on the entire budget for the reasons because I did not then and do not now believe that this engagement constitutes a conflict of interest for me personally. As I said in my non-recusal statement during budget deliberations in that month of January, this was actually January of 2025, NDD receives about 15% of its budget from the annual contribution of the city. And my salary at NDD is more than covered from the many other sources of income that NDD depends upon. Regarding NDD's work on behalf of the city's economic development initiatives, I do not believe that there is any financial benefit that can accrue to NDD or to me personally. NDD has not requested or received any additional compensation for countless volunteer hours that have been invested in its economic development efforts on behalf of the city of Newport over the course of the last year. Further, neither I personally nor NDD as an organization have any prospect of gaining financially directly from the economic development of downtown Newport, beyond what we all would gain as citizens if the downtown were to regain a sense of its former vibrancy. I've spoken at length with the city's attorneys regarding this matter since the complaint was filed with the clerk last Wednesday, and this is how I intend to respond to the complaint. 1. On any matter regarding potential grants to NDD or any other organization where I serve on the board of directors, I will ask that the council remove that item from the total budget and treat it separately as an independent article to be voted on like social service appropriations. I intend to offer a statement of recusal from all participation in those discussions or decisions. 2. Similarly, if there is any discussion regarding a formal agreement or contract between the City of Newport and NDD, I will continue what has been my practice of recusing myself entirely from that discussion. I will do so for as long as I serve as either paid staff or a board member for NDD, and will do the same for any other organization where I have a similar interest. 3. For any updates or recommendations that NDD may make to the City Council regarding economic development or other revitalization strategies for downtown Newport, I will offer a formal statement that acknowledges the potential for an appearance of conflict of interest, and I will state my reasons for non-recusal, which will be one or more of the following reasons as permitted in 1 VSA section 1992 B2, 2I5, etc. The language reads as follows. I can refuse to recuse myself if the conflict is amorphous, intangible, or otherwise speculative, or if I as an officer cannot legally or practically delegate the matter to someone else, or if the action to be taken by myself is purely ministerial and does not involve substantive decision-making, or if at a meeting of a public body I become aware of a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest and I determine that there is still good cause to proceed, I may do so. The question of a potential for conflict of interest was raised both in my campaign for City Council in 2024 and again in my mayoral campaign in 2025. I am confident that the Newport residents who voted for me understood that the potential for a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest existed because of my role as the director of NDD. And they voted for me because they believed I would manage potential conflicts appropriately. Further, I believe that it is also true that the synergy that the partnership between NDD and the City of Newport has created has been highly effective and critical to the city's ability to develop a viable, long-term economic development strategy. Given the culture of mistrust in our community and the reality that all of us can point to too many instances in which the public trust has been abused by key leaders over the past decade, I will strive to combat even the perception of a conflict of interest on my part as the mayor. We need to build trust, not mistrust. Trust is about honesty, character, and showing with one's actions that the trust placed in someone is deserved. I have worked hard as your mayor to be transparent, to build personal relationships with as many people in this community as possible, to work collaboratively, and to produce the results that inspire confidence that the city is headed in a new direction. To that end, in the process of reviewing documents for my response to this allegation of an ethical violation, I realized that the MOU signed between City Council and NDD's Board of Directors in December of 2024 had an expiration date of either April 1st, 2026, or upon the submission of a successful application for a TIF district to the state of Vermont, whichever would come first. Since we are now 5 days beyond the 1st of April, and there is no application at this point to the state of Vermont, my recommendation is that the City Council meet with representatives of NDD's Board of Directors as soon as possible to determine whether it is in both parties' best interest to sign another agreement and to agree on the terms of any prospective agreement. I intend to recuse myself from those conversations entirely and to abide by any outcome that may develop. Finally, I want to note that I have not taken a single vote until tonight in the year since I was elected mayor. My commitment, whenever possible, is to build shared understanding and consensus among the council members. Though it may at some point be necessary, it will never be ideal for me to have to break a tie between council members on an important matter. Here, as in all other ways, our goal should be to strengthen one another's opinions by listening respectfully to one another and attempting to create the strongest possible proposal with a shared consensus about how to move the city forward. I encourage all Newport residents who share that commitment to a constructive spirit to join in that effort with the council. In my judgment, the residents and leaders of the city of Newport have a very important choice to make. If we want a stable future for our kids and our grandchildren and for their grandchildren, we must work together right now to lay the foundation for that future. Though it may surprise many to hear me say so, that foundation is not just about building up the grand list and developing our downtown. The indicator for our success as a community is actually going to be the good spirit with which we work together and the respect we will show one another when we disagree. I want to say that again. The point here is not that we can solve our way out of this problem by some phenomenal economic development strategy that's going to be magic. It's going to be that we will develop a mechanism by which we as a community change the culture that we have grown addicted to as we have repeatedly felt we have been abused, often with good cause, over an extended period of time. Together, I believe we can rebuild trust with one another. And only by working together will we be successful in developing a vibrant downtown that can grow our grand list and reverse the economic death spiral that we have been in for many years. That trust will not happen overnight, nor will the economic turnaround that we all long for happen quickly. But without that trust, I guarantee it will not happen at all. Trust starts with creating a safe space in which everyone is welcome to show up and share their opinion. As long as I am mayor, we will not return to name-calling and temper tantrums and personal attacks in council meetings, nor will I engage in social media debates that are often intended to demonize one another rather to understand one another. Both attending council meetings and volunteering one's time to do the work of the city must be honored and appreciated even when we disagree with one another. I believe in this city. I believe in this city. I believe in the people who live in Newport and the surrounding towns and villages who have helped Newport to thrive in the past and who want it to thrive again in the future. I believe whatever we do, we must do it together, and I can't wait to see what's in store for this great little city when we do so. Respectfully, Rick Efford Chase, Mayor of Newport. So, friends, unless council members would like to make any further comment before hearing from the members of the community, we'll open it up to members of the community and then come back to the council table for final deliberation. Oh, and I should say, I also have filled out a disclosure of conflict of interest as required by the Vermont Code of Ethics that reflects, in a summary form, much of what I've just said, and I'll pass both mine and Carter's down to Jim. Is there someone who would like to speak to this matter from the community? Jay, go ahead.
Sure, considering I've made the complaint, it's appropriate that I speak to this matter. So, I didn't come to this lightly, and I'll tell you why. Primarily, I've always been a strong supporter of what NDD is doing, and I believe that between the city and NDD, that the city will become better through some of the projects that they're proposing, and certainly has already. I don't question that at all. I'm in full support of that and the members of that. What I do have an issue with is, well, the fact that everything that the mayor said is correct. We need to pull together and pull this off. The problem being that by not recusing oneself, you threaten all of that. By your votes possibly being challenged and overturned, it will undo everything that you plan to do and that you are doing. And I'm not willing to see that happen. This is the reason that I'm calling for you each to recuse yourselves, because you do have a conflict being associated with NBD on any matter before the city. When you take that vote, you're supposed to be solely responsible to the city and not to another party. Recusal is not a dirty word. It's simply the best solution. By simply recusing yourselves, it benefits all parties. It benefits you because it takes you out of conflict. It benefits the organization that you're representing being that the city or NDD, because it removes you from the situation. Those things can't be challenged, but as soon as you start voting and discussing things with your hat from NDD as mayor, that is a direct conflict of interest. I also, to finish, believe that this item on the agenda was improperly warned and is improperly the way to address the conflict of interest complaint.
Thank you for your comments. Are there other members of the community who would like to speak to this? No?
I must admit, over the year, I've been concerned about whether or not some things have gone on that have been conflicting. And when you put into the mix NVD, and I never did it right, NVDA, of which one of the people who's on the council works for, and the involvement every now and then of TRAC and NVDA and them getting benefits from the city. There have been conflicts that I've been concerned about. And in addition, when you mention the word consensus, my hair sort of wants to stand on end. What I wanted for a council was I wanted 5 individuals who came to the council with their own ideas and who would, in the council meetings, because you're not really supposed to talk to each other in more than groups of 2 outside the council meetings, so a lot of this has to happen in the council meetings. I wanted people to ask questions. I wanted them to express their opinions and talk to each other and get that conversation going. And yes, you might eventually come to agreement, or there may be a vote of 2-2 with a vote breaker, or 3-1. But if you look back at what's happened over the last almost 2 years, all of your votes, other than for somebody recusing themselves or being absent, they've been unanimous almost without the mayor even participating. And then when you look at some of the committees or task forces and how their decisions have been made, there's not even a vote taken. We rule by consensus. It's not consensus. We vote. That's important. We need your own opinions. We need to hear them. And then we need to sort of feel that we understand why you voted the way you did. And I hope to see more of that. And it can be raised in terms of conflict of interest or just letting us know what you think.
Thank you for your comments. Are there other members of the community who would like to speak? Hearing none. Council members, I'll just come back to ask if there are any other comments you would like to make. I don't think there's a further action, but you can tell me if you think I'm wrong than the statements of disclosure that have been presented. But if there's more conversation you all would like to have about this, this is what we're here for.
I think we've taken the action that we need to take, and I don't have anything to add. I am absolutely baffled as to what the conflict is, at least in terms of Carter and myself. It's just totally unreasonable. There's simply no conflict. There's zero unique benefit, period.
Thank you, Sharon.
Well, in a small community, it's always a handful of people doing all the volunteering. And if we don't volunteer, who else is going to do it? If every time we think we're going to go volunteer for an event, it's going to be a conflict of interest, which I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And you know, I've been on the website for the municipal ethics training and all of that, And I redid it again today, so I've done the thing twice, and I have 5 pages of notes here, and everything John said, I have written down. Maybe I could say every time to you, you have a personal gain here? Maybe I'll start saying that. But everything I read, and I went back over that for hours today, and I looked at it all, and I just don't see, I just don't get it. I don't see it.
I agree with Sharon. We are at a point now where we can't move forward with people with people making accusations that are personal opinions. And I feel that a lot of the accusations are personal, and they do not need to be, because it's very inappropriate and it's a waste of everybody's time to have to address this if there is a conflict, if somebody thinks there's a conflict every time you turn around. When you have 3% of the people doing 100% of the work, what do you expect? There's going to be a conflict regardless of what you do. Thank you.
Sharon, go ahead.
I'll just also say, the letter I received too, I'll be point blank and say I felt threatened by it. I felt like it was a threat. It's a do as I say or I'm going after you next is what I see here. Right down to telling me what words to use and how to speak. I was very offended by that. If I need the words, I'll ask for help, but I know how to speak. So I'm putting it out there. That's how I felt.
Carter, it's harder, you're at a disadvantage. Would you like to say anything further?
So,
That was a no, Carter, is that correct? Got it.
yes, this is Curtis trying to speak.
Trying to speak.
And I'm coming through, okay?
Yes, you are now.
Okay. I understand and appreciate when people voice when there's specific issues that come up. We are absolutely allowed to question and consider conflict. I don't think conflict is necessary, by refusal is a negative thing. I think it keeps us honest. I have done it in the past when it comes to approving salaries for people that I'm friends with. I've had to speak myself when it comes to different work or things like that. And I've also clearly identified my role at MBBA. But I think a general statement about my employer is not really valid. But I am very looking to have that conversation when something is on the agenda, and just to have that conversation. And it's not, it's left because I lose my friends.
Thank you, Carter. I'll just say that I have copies, if anyone would like one, of my remarks tonight. I know they were very long. I appreciate the council's forbearance. But if anybody would like one, I'll leave them here on the table this evening. I don't think there's anything else to add, but if anybody else has anything you'd like to add, this is your moment. Okay. Moving on to item 14, task force reports. John, do you have anything from water and sewer?
We're meeting Thursday night, 6:30 here.
Okay. Carter, I think you've got something substantial that you want to put on the table regarding the audit recommendation from the committee, is that right?
Yes, I do. So exciting RFP results. They are published in the packet. We had 2 responses from 2 auditing firms. One helps me recognize that we have used for the last decade or so. And we also had a competitive proposal submitted by Children. We reviewed them once we received them. The following financial task force met and asked questions. We gathered a consensus. I think we had an official vote. But nonetheless, we were very interested and intrigued with the Batchelder and Harper. So pricing was competitive, as I said. But just to make sure, I called all of the municipal references that she provided. I spoke with 3 of them. I would like to keep some sort of anonymity when it comes to saying who said what, but I will just vaguely say that, I spoke with, if we were in apples, and trying to compare apples to apples, I did speak with one municipality that was certainly an apple. I spoke with one municipality that was very state fair apple, and I spoke with one municipality that I would raise orange. But nonetheless, all of them were resounding positive experience, and they described her communication as thorough and prompt, and she was very responsive in general. She, the conversations that I had with folks really important that I brought that back to the financial task force. In addition, we had a meeting with Bonnie, I think it was not the most recent Wednesday, but the Wednesday before that. It was posted online, so we got to ask her questions and hear more about her process. That conversation plus some references, allowed the executive officer to bring the consideration and recommendation to the council to move forward with Shelter Associates for our auditing process this year. I understand we initially thought we would not have to have a single audit. I under the impression that that meant be triggered just due to some funding sources that we're trying to get through for some projects. But one of the references that I had a conversation with specifically made that they had to have a single audit because of FEMA flooding and all that. And actually, Bonnie and her team identified a payment that they can get as a value over $54,000 that they were missing and that they were able to bill and file for contractors. So she is definitely skilled, able to help the city out with a single audit if need be. And so I hope that the council can, I know that a motion is required, but if you guys have any questions about the process or about this, I can try to speak to that. And also I think Lori's in the room, she can about anything, and also Rick, if I'm missing anything, feel free to say.
I think you've been pretty complete, but Lori, if you just want to speak to it, especially given the trouble Carter's having with technology.
Yeah, I'll just want to add that we had a really good meeting with Bonnie Batchelder, and I think one of the things, at least for most of us, was that since the beginning of COVID in 2020, she's been able to perfect a system of doing everything online. And now that we've been through the process that we went through last year, the way that the city was able to give the information to KBS, the help that we've had from CHIP, changing some of our systems, adding the accounting system that we now have, it's going to be an easier process. And one of the things that will help is actually that Bonnie does not actually have to come to Newport to do the work. KBS was coming here for a week, and she has a system to be able to do this, to work with our clerk treasurer's office and city manager's office to be able to get the information they need in a timely manner without actually having to come to Newport and spend time here. She will come if we ask her to come for a meeting, but I think that was one of the things that I was very happy to hear. And it seems that, we really were very happy with her. The cost per hour for her rate is much less than KBS, and the overall, I think we really do think it's going to be a much better situation.
Thank you, Lori. Council members, do you have comments or questions?
There were proposals from only two.
Yes, just two proposals, KBS and Batchelder.
I know there are far fewer firms that do
Yes.
audits in Vermont than was the case even 10 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I was looking this over, my question was going to be, and I believe Carter said it, but she did, or you as a committee, you did check the references that were provided?
Yes, that's what Carter was describing. She's called the references and had, what I heard her saying was that she was working hard to make sure that we were comparing apples to apples.
Yes.
She's confident, all of the references were positive, and she's confident that she got a conversation that was roughly apples to apples.
Okay, good. The references that she provided, or from the towns or cities she provided, seemed comparable to Newport.
I think that's right.
So I was happy to see it wasn't just Chittenden County.
Oh, I think we have a happy
Yeah.
confluence on this one. We've got the much lower bid
Yeah.
from a person who has given only superlative references. And while I think KBS has given faithful service over many years, I think it's a good practice to change auditors occasionally anyway. So this seems like the right move for the city. Any comments or questions from the community? Jennifer, come to the mic, please.
Jennifer Hopkins, Newport. I've worn many hats over the years, and surprisingly enough, I've worked with this auditing firm on a single audit for an EDA, Economic Development Administration grant, which happened to be the Food Venture Center in Hardwick was the main project we did at that time. Also, we did a fiber optic project. But I can tell you they were marvelous to deal with, willing to explain things to all of us. We did have some people who really have more financial background than I do. But I worked with 2 other auditing firms for different projects, and I would say that they were the most responsive. That was years ago, but Bonnie's still there, so.
Okay, that's it. You're referring to Bonnie, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any other comments from members of the community? Okay, hearing none, council members, I think what we need is a motion that does 3 things. It would approve moving ahead with a contract with Bonnie Batchelder, thank you, with Bonnie Batchelder, along the, according to the terms that she laid out in her proposal. It would authorize me as your representative to sign that contract, as long as it reflects this proposal. And it would appoint Batchelder as our auditor for the coming year, which we didn't have on our sheet when we took that action earlier. Did I miss anything? You all feel like that motion is appropriately crafted?
I'll make it.
Great, got a motion, we have a second. And a second. Any other conversation? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed, nay? The motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is a report from the City Manager Search Committee. Andrew and Carter, if you have anything you want to report on the meeting that took place since we met as a council last, then I can also report on my conversation with Dominic Cloud, just trying to find the next meeting time for the council. So, Andrew, do you want to do that since Carter's on?
Absolutely. So we met last week and went over a draft of the job description and just a brochure of welcome to Newport. This is what we're all about. They used the video, parts of the video. And Dominic was going to take that. We did request a few small changes. And he is going to rewrite some of those, and then I believe he was hoping to have that back to us at some point this week, and then come back to do the presentation and receive approval from council.
Yeah, so that's
at the next council.
where I can jump in. Dominic and I went back and forth several times at the end of last week, trying to find a suitable date in April to keep this process moving. It's very challenging between his travel schedule. It's mostly his travel schedule, but also I'm going to be gone most of next week, and then he'll be gone thereafter. So our proposal to the council is that we call a special meeting for Thursday afternoon this week, Thursday the 9th, at 5 p.m., earlier than normal. That's in part because Andrew has to be with the fire department strategic planning task force at 6.
And you and I have water and sewer.
And you and I have water and sewer at 6:30. So we're trying to squeeze in this meeting with Dominic, which would be in open session, as I understand it, for Dominic to share the draft of the job description and the job posting information with council for any conversation and further tightening, and the hope that council could then approve it if we feel comfortable, if you all feel comfortable, could approve it Thursday night so that Dominic can begin the process of putting the word out about this position being available. Carter, do you have anything to add, or do you think I've misstated anything about that?
No, I think you and Andrew summarized it well.
So I think the only action that would be necessary, well, I'll just put it out to the community first. Are there any comments or questions about the city manager job search committee or process right now? Okay, hearing none, then do I have a motion to call, actually, let me ask one more question. Hey, Carrie, was there one other thing that we were going to put on this special meeting agenda? I felt like there were two things, and now I'm having a hard time remembering.
Potentially a grant-related item.
There may be a grant-related item.
Okay,
Sorry.
so yes, I don't remember the specifics of it, but there's a signature, there's an authorization that we may need to get for a grant-related item. So I would ask for approval from council to call a special meeting for Thursday the 9th at 5 p.m. here in this room to do two things. One is to work on the special, the job description and job posting with Dominic Cloud, and the search committee. Hopefully, some of those members will be able to be with us. And the second is to take whatever action is necessary to keep a grant moving forward. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion or conversation? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, motion carries. Item D, Fire Department Strategic Planning. Andrew, what do we got?
You gave it away. We're meeting
Sorry.
Thursday night at 6, at which point we're going to review a presentation for the council, and then we'll be looking to get on the agenda maybe the second meeting in May.
Okay. Second meeting in May.
Second, yes.
Okay, so we're still a ways away, and you'll let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions for Andrew? Okay. New business. Council members, any items of new business you'd like to bring up tonight?
I already stated it, but I have done municipal ethics, code of ethics training, and I sent it into Carrie today, so it is on file, and I also have proof of it here if anyone wants to see it.
Thank you, Sharon.
Second of all, I also watched, it's on YouTube. It's the committee from the legislature of the Development Committee that Mike Marcotte, our representative,
The House
chairs.
Committee on Commerce and Economic Development.
Okay, that one. And Rick also testified on behalf of Newport. It's excellent, very well done, and well worth watching if anybody has some time to watch it. A couple of points that hit me was I was very, very happy to hear Mike Marcotte say to that committee, we as a state owe Newport for the EB5 disaster. And their heads were nodding. And so it wasn't, he had agreement on that committee. The second thing that hit me personally was Rick didn't sugarcoat a thing about Newport and everything we've been through. And one of the committee members looked at him and said, I wish more people would come with that kind of honesty and not always trying to sugarcoat their communities. Thank you. So kudos to you, Rick. I thought you did a really well job.
I think that was April 1st.
I don't know, I watched it as I was getting.
You would have to find it online, and it was, I believe it was the
I found it
it's a
through.
YouTube video before the House Committee on Commerce.
Yeah, I don't know how I found it.
Wednesday, the 1st of April.
It was very good.
Thank you. Any other new business? Andrew? Carter? We're just going to take new business from council members tonight, Mike. Thank you. Carter, any other new business?
Why bother come to meetings if you're not going to listen to people at all?
None for me.
Okay. All right. Any old business? Members of council? Okay. I'll just say, Jay, I was listening with interest to your comment that we are apparently not in compliance with the ethics law requirements on the website. And that's news to me, so we will, Carrie and I will look into that.
It's there.
I mean,
I read it today.
It just references,
No, it's all on there. It's on the bottom.
yeah.
it's there on our
It
website?
is there.
That's good to know.
The link on the bottom? Yeah,
It's,
that's-
it's there. It's like, it's a picture. Go look, it's there.
We'll double check it.
I-
Yeah,
I
so-
read
Bottom
it.
line is, we're not gonna have discussion, we'll double check.
No, I just wanted to elaborate that it's missing the procedures for.
We will double check it.
Yep.
All I was doing was making the comment that your comment was heard.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm not taking any other comment tonight, Jennifer. You can speak with one of the council members after.
If it's about procedural stuff that happened that you might want to remedy before you adjourn. Do you want to hear it or not?
I don't, council members, what do you want to do?
I don't care.
Okay, Jennifer, if you want to come to the microphone and name your procedural question, go ahead.
So I'm just trying to look out for you guys.
I appreciate that.
All right, so if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Manette, when you made your motion earlier in reference to the bond, you pulled the language from section 732 of the charter and named the 4 offices that were enumerated in section 732. But in section 40 of the charter, it is also buried that there is a bonding requirement for the city manager. So,
We don't have one, and that's why.
That's why we will when we have one.
okay, so you're gonna do that
We'll return.
proactively. Okay, and then the second item was in reference to the vote that took place, I think it was 2024, there was a vote that required the city council to be bonded, and you may want to repeal that.
Okay, we will investigate, council
Okay.
members, and bring that back. All right, no other items of old business? Okay, do I have a motion to set the next meeting of the council for Thursday, April 9th at 5 PM here in the council chambers?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. John makes the motion, Andrew seconds, Jim. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much.